Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Mama Tales, a podcast on our collective journey into motherhood. I'm your host, Sally Kuria. A quick disclaimer before we continue on with this episode. So there's a very angry dog outside. I've been waiting for it to chill before I record this part of the podcast, but I cannot wait any longer. I need to go to bed. So it might pop in here and there. Hopefully it doesn't ruin anything. So let's just go with the flow. I also don't have that much to talk about this week other than celebrating the fact that the sun is finally back. You know, it's so crazy how our moods are affected by the weather. Well, at least mine is. So I'm feeling a lot happier, a lot freer, and I'm taking some time to enjoy the sun. Like I'm walking outside and, just feeling that heat and also playing a lot with the baby outside. So that's really good. And I hope that you take some time to enjoy the sun. Well, that is before we start complaining that it's too hot, because ultimately that's exactly where we're headed. So let me introduce this week's mama. I met Edna late last year when they were moving into our neighborhood. And that time she was pregnant with a second child. Really nice and friendly. So it was really good to see her go through that. I think it must have been like the third trimester, and her baby Jasiri came through right around December. So one day, we'd been meeting a lot outside. So one day when we were sunbasking with our babies, I mentioned that I was starting this podcast, and she was really interested and elated to share her story here. I think the dynamics of being a mom of two are a little bit different than being a mom of one. So I think that's something we'll definitely hear from her story. So without further ado, here is Edna's story.
My name is Edna Gishovi, or Edna Gishovi Tairo. Tairo is my husband. I am a mom of two. I have a Hadi who is 3.5 now. Wow, I had not even realized that, 3.5. And Jasiri who will be 7 months in the next 2 days, actually. I think I was those people who wanted to wait for like 2 years after I got married before I even thought of having kids. My husband was not. He was ready to hit the ground running. So we compromised and we're like, okay, we'll take 1 year. So for 1 year, it was just the two of us. And then we're like, okay, now it's time. And we started trying and boom. So I actually suspected I may be pregnant, took some pregnancy tests. This is in around, I think, May 2017. But then all of them came back negative. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not. But I just didn't know. Then one time we had just moved to a new house, and it was kind of like a housewarming deal. We had my husband's family coming, and they're a large family, and everyone there is married with kids, so lots of people, and I was one who was doing all the cooking and everything. So it was a busy day. I was really tired at the end of it all. My feet were really aching, and I started feeling like I was sick, and I was cramping, and I'm like, okay, my period is extremely late, but I have never been regular, and I've always been extremely late, like 30, even 40 days late, and I'm like, oh, that has always been my just how my body works. So for 2 days, I felt that way, and I was like, okay, let me just go to hospital and see what's up, because I'm not feeling well. And I remember it was on a Sunday, we had hosted them on a Saturday. So the next day I was still not well the whole day. So I went to hospital, got this very interesting doctor who asked me lots of questions. And at that time, Yes, I'm the one who asked him, could you do a pregnancy test as one of the tests? Because he was like, you're not pregnant. Mm-hmm. And he was just very sure about it. He's sending me for a thyroid test and a bunch of other tests. So I was like, just put the pregnancy test in there. So they did all the tests. We went home. We lived near the hospital. So 2 hours, we went home, came back much later, found another doctor on call. I'm glad, because I did not really like my experience with that particular doctor. So when I came back, the doctor, ushered me in, looked at my results and asked me, did you know that this is one of the tests they were running? And I said yes. And he asked me, what did you expect? And I was like, well, I hope it's positive. Then he's like, congratulations, you are pregnant. And it was Mother's Day, actually, in May 2017. So it was a perfect day to find out that you're going to be a mother. I remember I told Edwin, my husband, I didn't tell him actually immediately, because he was in the waiting room waiting for me to finish with the doctor. I was given a bunch of meds, the vitamins, the pregnant care stuff. And I came out with them and we walked home because it was very close. And I still hadn't told him because I was working out the best way to tell him. Yeah. And I told him something so weird. And I told him, they've just told me something is growing in my stomach. I know it's the weirdest thing. And then he's like, he looked at me confused. He was not getting it. Then I told him, okay, we are pregnant. Then he thought I was joking and it just took a while. He was like, what? You know, I've had this from a few people, but it's so interesting that you're okay until you find out you're pregnant. Then the morning sickness kicks in when you find out. I think there's something psychological in there. Yeah. So literally, I think the next day or 2 days later, when I was calling my mom and everyone else to tell them that we're expecting, I started now having the nausea. And I didn't have this prior to that. Maybe I only had the cramps, which I was thinking they're period related and they were not. Yeah. The cramps were now an everyday thing. Like, I remember those cramps very clearly. Yeah. They were very uncomfortable. The nausea kicked in. And I think my worst symptom, because I was not like throwing up or anything, but my worst symptom is that I used to have some gastrointestinal issues prior to the pregnancy that now got worse. And I could not, everything was making my stomach ache. I was in constant pain and discomfort. Sometimes I was throwing up. So at some point, I remember I was only eating plain yogurt and rice. Those are the only things I could eat and not have them affect me. So I would really enjoy a very tasty meal and know that I'm going to pay for it badly afterwards. So that was my worst symptom. And that went on for, I don't know, up to maybe the second trimester. Because I remember at some point I was in so much pain and discomfort and I was so tired. I maxed out my annual leave. I was just constantly calling in sick. I'm like, when does this end? Yeah. It was a bit stressful those first couple of months, but it got better, I think, mid-second trimester. And then after that, I think third trimester, the usual issues, you're just tired and you can't wait to just literally, see your baby or just get over that period. But I think after those first couple of months, and it was like that for me for both pregnancies, like same symptoms, same journey until the second trimester. That's when now sort of you start to feel better and you're stronger. I had 5 due dates. They kept changing. So I had December 26th. I had December, they kept changing, but January 1st. So by the time I was closer to my due date, I was so tired and I literally just decided to take leave thinking, okay, I'm 39 weeks, almost 40. It should be any time now. It was not. So I took leave and I stayed home for almost 2 weeks with people calling me Bado or mtoto amefika. And I hated those phone calls because I stopped taking phone calls after a while. So we would walk. We used to live in Parklands at that time, first Parklands. And I remember we would walk all the way to Sarit. We walk back, go through Mpisha, just trying to get this baby out. We had put our clothes on standby. The bag was packed and it was every day. Every day was it could be tonight. It was never that night. So what happened? What happened is that now I got to 41 weeks. Yes, I got to 41 weeks. And from 40 weeks, the doctor who was seeing me at that time, Dr. Nyumba, loved Dr. Nyumba, he kept trying to admit me because he kept trying, you just come we induce. And I would no, we're waiting for labor. So I did the membrane sweep twice. Nothing happened, still at 0 or 1 centimeters, which is 0 pretty much. So at 41 weeks, I think 3 days, we went to see him. I called him. He even told me, don't even pay for consultation, just come. I hope you're calling me when you're just outside. I was like, yeah, I'm outside your door. Come. So we came in. He told me, now, you cannot wait any longer. We have to admit you. And I'm telling him, okay, then let me just go home. He's like, no. I know your type. My wife is the same way. And he's now outside with my husband. Yeah. Please let her be admitted right now. But we lived very close to Mpisha. We were living so we convinced him, okay, the bag is packed. We're coming. He's like, I want you back here by 3 p.m. It was morning at that time. So we went home. My mom-in-law had come to pray for us. We went for lunch. And that time I'm thinking, no, I don't want to be admitted. I still wanted to wait for the labor to kick in naturally. And I felt like I was losing that. Like I was losing the whole, how I had envisioned the labor is kicking in. Okay, we are timing. It was not, it didn't work out that way. So yeah, at 3 p.m. I was admitted, wheeled with my suitcase and all that. Yeah, and then they started the induction, I think maybe at around 4 or something like that. There was no pain actually. So because the induction failed, it was a long wait. So there I am on Wednesday. I was admitted on a Wednesday. They've popped in the first pill for induction at maybe around 3:30, 4. You have to wait 8 hours, and they keep monitoring the baby, hooking you up to all of these things to check if the baby's heartbeat is okay. So 8 hours went by. They came to check me, still at 1 centimeter. They popped another pill. Another 8 hours of them doing the regular checks. 1 centimeter. Like I was not progressing. Third pill was popped in, and they only do 3 pills, by the way, before they say, okay, we need to think of plan B. So they got in the third pill, and now it was Thursday evening. So now I didn't go with my own doctor. For me, I was just I was being seen by whoever was on call then. So Dr. Nyumba now came in, was on call that evening. He came, he checked. He's like, you're at 2 centimeters. And he was so chirpy. And me that time, I'm like, hiya. I've been here since yesterday and it's Thursday evening and it's nothing. He's like, don't worry about it. He did another membrane sweep. It was extremely painful. And he's like, you should be good. You should be good. And now, of course, the nurse is there. She's saying, okay, we've given her 3 tablets. She's not progressing. They seemed to not be in agreement about something. So they left. So I was left there thinking, okay, what next? And that time in my mind, I'm thinking, I do not want to be told I'm going for a CS or anything like that. And I was not in serious pain, just cramps. So the evening went on. I think they agreed that, they'll give me an oral tablet now to make things go along. But in the evening, it was not him on call. It was now another doctor on call. She came, she found me there and she was like, they checked 3 centimeters. Imagine, after all that time, this is now later, like 9 p.m. on Thursday. So she broke my water and I remember thinking, this is so weird. Like that, all the sensations, everything. But now after she broke my water, because my sister had come to relieve my husband, and she came and she found me bouncing on that big ball, walking, and she's like, hey, you're powering through. And I'm like, yes, I am powering through this labor. But once they broke my water, that's when all hell broke loose. The pain, the everything just came immediately. I started throwing up everything I had eaten, even water, snacks, anything. I was throwing up everything. They tried to give me an injection. I said no, because everything was extremely painful at that point to help me not to throw up. So at that time, that's when the real labor kicked in, and I was in so much pain. I remember. Then my husband had left me a calm woman powering through the labor, and now came back to relieve, and he could not believe it's a different woman. So at that time, I was that whole night was a blur. It was just now the contractions were. Even they brought the drip thing now to help the labor progressing. There's this medicine that is like the worst because I know that every time I hear someone is bringing that, I'm like, no, it's called syntocinon. For any mom who has been induced, syntocinon is the ghetto. So they brought the syntocinon, the drip. And so I was hooked onto it to now progress the labor. And they say that now induction, the contractions are stronger. I don't know. I have nothing to compare it with, but it was so painful. So I was there the whole night, which was now a blur. The next morning they come to check me, and maybe 5, I'd lost track of time. 6 centimeters. I was like, come on, guys. I cannot be here. And then they were just giving you a tentative 6 to 7 centimeters. I'm like, and by that time, mind you, this was I think at 8. The urge to push had already kicked in, so I was feeling it intensely. And they're telling me, don't even start pushing because you will tear badly. Don't, just hold on. So I'm there with the contractions, the urge to push. I'm still throwing up. It was just a mess. Yeah. It was a messy situation. Yeah. So. Yeah, we progressed, I think at one, that's when I was like, okay, guys, I am going to push this baby out. And then now they came and checked. They're like, okay, you're at 9 centimeters, but there's something, there's a crowning. There's still a space that I'm like, guys, it's time. So they took me to the delivery room at 9 centimeters. They put me on the bed and they're like, okay, just wait a bit, bado. But they were just indulging me. I'm telling them, okay, it's now. They come, they check, bado. Then eventually now that I told them, okay, now it's time. They came and checked. Okay, yes, it's time. And then they told me, okay, lie on the bed. This is how you need to start pushing. Don't be like, wah, with your mouth open. You know how they tell you to push like a dignified human being. And of course, there's no dignity at all at that point. Your dignity went out the window weeks ago by that time. So, by 140, I think it didn't take long. In fact, that was the easiest part of the entire process. And I used to think back then when I didn't know anything about childbearing, I used to think that was the worst thing. But for me, that was the easiest part. Like, it took me 15 or 20 minutes and the baby was pushed out. And everything was gone. The pain, I'm like, hiya, it was just over, you know? It was so interesting. So there was our baby. And we were like, this is on Friday at 1:40. And I was admitted on Wednesday. So, but we were so grateful. Heartbeat was okay the whole time. You know, all our fears that maybe she would poop or, you know, go into distress, you know, God just kept her and she was okay. She was just not in a hurry to come out. So from the get-go, we knew that we really wanted Kiswahili names for our babies. So we had a long running list of names and we kept thinking, could it be this one? And then it's my husband who actually decided on that particular one, and he talked about God's promises and how it's something, you know, God's promises always come to pass, and to us this is one of them. So we decided on the name Ahadi. People tell you will not sleep, but you don't know how bad it is until the baby gets here. You're like, I've stayed up before, but there's nothing that prepares you for the sleepless nights. So I think for me, it was the baptism by fire came on the second day, because I was in hospital for quite some time even after that. I think they wanted to monitor me, so they didn't release me. I was still there for 2 more days. The day I delivered and the next day, I slept over at the hospital. So the day I delivered was relatively chill, but now the next day, wait, am I confusing? Yes, it's the next day, the Saturday evening, because I was discharged on Sunday. The baby did not sleep. I'm breastfeeding, I'm doing everything I thought you were supposed to be doing. And that went on until 3 a.m. And at 3 a.m. I was like, okay, I'm taking this baby to the nursery. And you know, at that point, you don't know, like you take your baby to the nursery and they're like, actually, you know, after you deliver your baby, you're supposed to stay with your baby. It's not like you take your baby to the nursery, then you go and chill. No. So I remember at 3, I was so tired, and there's this small trolley they give you to put your baby in, for your baby to sleep in, and I pushed it, took it to the nursery, and I was like, I've been breastfeeding this baby the whole night. And the nurse looked at her and she's like, but she's very hungry. But like, I've been breastfeeding her the whole night. And she gave her a few small sips of formula, and she just blacked out. And she told me, and then she gave the baby back. I'm like, I was actually bringing the baby here to sleep. And so I went back with the baby, and you know how it is when you've not slept for a long time. When you try to sleep, the sleep is not there. The sleep doesn't come as quickly. So it took me an hour to try to sleep. And by the time I was now trying to fall asleep, the baby woke up again. And I was like, come on. This cannot be my life now. And the guys who change your bed sheets in the morning at 5 a.m. came and found me. And I told them I had not. Jalala. Oh, pole. Mpeleke wende ukaoge. So they took the baby. They used to wash the babies in the morning. And at least then I got some sleep. Yeah. Now came going home. When you're discharged, you're like, you know, you guys are letting me go away with this baby. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So we took the baby home. Again, the sleepless nights. I think that was one of my biggest, like, is it culture shock or what? That was my biggest ones. Like, is this our new life now? Like, no sleep at all. So I think that was one of the biggest challenges. And of course, thinking, is she okay? Is that a cough? Does she have a cold? You know, there's so many things you don't know. And most people forget about newborns, because I remember I had read all of these things about what to expect. And I knew that newborns have noisy breathing. But my sister came a week later and told me my baby has a cold. No, indeed, she has 2 kids. Yeah. And now I got worried. But before that, I was not. I was like, no, this is a normal newborn thing. We took our baby to hospital. We're told this baby is not sick. But the doctor was very gracious. He's like, oh, you're first-time parents. It's okay. So, colic, we went through that as well. After 2 weeks, she just started crying at night. That was stressful. We would walk around the whole house, take turns holding her. You eat quickly while the other person is pacing around with a crying baby. Then now it's your turn. And nothing you do is, giving the baby any relief. And that felt like it went on forever. And people just keep throwing at you random remedies. Oh, try this medicine. Try these herbs. Try putting your baby in this position. I think none of that works. Oh, it works today and tomorrow it doesn't work. So it's just a time thing. That's what I tell all new moms now. Just, I'm sorry to tell you, but it might go on for a while. But just take care of yourself. Get as much support as you need. Yeah, some of these remedies may or may not work. And just do what works for you. For me, how people have this expectation of when you come back home, oh, your mom will be there. Well, my mom actually has a full-time job. My mom was not there, so it was just us. Yeah. And a new nanny who was fresh out of Form 4, who was also not it was just all of us were just green and fresh. And we were trying to figure things out together. Yeah. So, it was a bit stressful, but I think we tried as best as we could. And I used to be on Google literally all the time. All my search items were, is it normal for baby? Is it okay if, that's all my search items were started with that line. And I usually say I felt like I was taking a second master's degree in baby stuff, because I was up at night breastfeeding and reading, watching videos. So I was just consuming information and telling my husband as an expert, oh, babies don't actually, when exclusively breastfed babies don't usually. So it's trying to sound like an expert, but of something that I learned last night. Yeah, so it was an interesting period. I think when I had my first baby, my mind completely shifted. I think having a baby completely changes you, and you can never go back to who you were. Because I even look at my photos of pre-baby when we were newly married, a few years ago, and I'm like, who is this? That's not me at all. The person I was then, my priorities, my thought processes, not me. And it's so interesting. When I had the baby, I was like, okay, this is my life now. I have dedicated my entire life to serving this baby. I will never do anything else again. That's how it felt, literally. Because I remember the day my husband went back to work from maternity leave, I was like, is he actually leaving us? I can't believe you're leaving us here. Yeah. And then, he looked like, he's meeting someone. I'm like, you're meeting someone for coffee. You actually have a life. He's joining BSF. I'm like, you're joining? That means you'll be gone one evening and a week. And it just seemed like I will never have my life back together again. This is now my entire life mission. But it's interesting, the 3 months elapsed. It's time to go back to work. And I think the best advice I was given is just start leaving the house before the time to go back to work gets around. And that was one of the best pieces of advice. So, I started leaving. I would make sure I've pumped my milk. I've made everything is ready. And then I leave. Leave for 1 hour, leave for 2 hours. Because I literally hadn't left the house, I think, for almost 2 months. Apart from going for the jabs and all that. Once I remember the first time I went downstairs, we used to live on the first top floor, to M-Pesa. But that was the first time I left the house, going to an M-Pesa shop. And I was like, outside, it was just, everything was so fresh and so new. I hadn't been outside in so long. Yeah. And then my birthday came along also, and my husband had this thing planned where we had to go for lunch. I was happy to leave, but I was also so anxious and thinking, how is the baby? Kept calling. But eventually you get used to it and you start living and you're like, okay, you can still have your baby and still be a mom and still have your life going on. Yeah. It's an interesting shift that happened. I still feel the same way now. When I look at photos from before I had kids, I'm like, this is not, I can't relate to that person who I was then. it's better. I just look back to that person, and it's not bad. I mean, that's who I was. That's the season I was in, and I was like, man, like my concerns back then was so trivial, and right now, I mean, the things the things that concern me, the things that I think about, and I'm like, yeah, this is what's important in life. Yeah. And, back then it's like, what will I wear? I need to go for shopping, or I need to, I don't know. It just feels like the things that occupied me at that time or were worries or concerns to me then. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like, wow, I have grown as a person. So I think we had said we'll wait until the baby is 2. Maybe we said 1.5. But back then I was going through a number of stuff. I had just gotten a new position at work. I was like, I can't be pregnant right now. I can't be going through 2 transitions at the same time. So I think we waited until she was 2. And then that's when we thought, okay, let's try for another baby. And even then, it's so interesting for us. It's just, God has been so gracious. When we decide, okay, we're having the next baby, it just happens. Like it felt like we were waiting for some time, but we were already pregnant. Even when I was thinking, hey, it's taking so long this time, but we were already pregnant even then. Found out I was pregnant, I think Easter of last year. So this is in the thick of COVID, when COVID had just hit Kenya. So I think it was a bit scary because back then there were so many unknowns. I would look some things up, and even when you check online, they're like, it's not really known how COVID would affect a pregnant woman, and then you hear there are babies who are born with COVID. Yeah. It was just, there was so much conflicting news here and there. So I had a few concerns, but I rarely used to leave there. I was working from home, rarely used to leave the house then. So I think maybe it didn't occupy me for a long time, that particular concern. I found an interesting cartoon strip of how different it is when you're pregnant with your first baby versus your second and subsequent babies. When you're pregnant with your first baby, you can put your legs up on the couch and be waited on hand and foot and just have, a nice, peaceful, relaxing time. Yeah. But now, of course, with the second, I had a toddler at home who, wants mom a lot. Mm-hmm. So it was, at some point I was thinking, oh my, I just need a break from this. Like, does she know I'm pregnant? Like, I'm tired. I can't be running around and crawling on all fours. Yeah. But yeah, it was, sometimes we'd think, does she know that there's something, like that days should get very clingy, and we'd start thinking, maybe she knows something is about to happen. Mm-hmm. So we would try to tell her, there's her little brother is coming. And now when the belly started showing, we would have her come and try to talk to the baby. But I don't think she used to get it then. But she would really, I mean, she could tell, okay, the belly is looking a bit big. Like it's not, in fact, there's a day she told, I don't know, she saw Peppa Pig or something. And there was someone who had a big tummy. It's like, yeah, like mummies. I'm like, excuse me, young lady. Yeah, so I don't know, she didn't really get it until maybe we started buying stuff and we would tell her, this is for the small baby. And then a lot of stuff started coming in, and we were like, okay, now she's getting concerned that a lot of things are being bought and they're not hers. Yeah. Yeah. So we would try to buy her things from time to time. And when we bring in new things, we try to bring in when she's not there, so that it's not like, okay, you guys are always bringing in new things, and now it feels like I'm being replaced. Yeah. When I was pregnant, there was this concern at the time where I was being seen that the baby was not progressing or growing as they should. And they kept saying, this baby looks a bit smaller than, they should be at this point. So I kept going for scan after scan after scan. Like I was being sent for so many scans. Yeah. And eventually one day they sent me for a scan and they're like, okay, the baby is 4.4 kgs now, give or take 500 grams. And then I was, that time I was 39 weeks. And the doctor was like, okay. And, back all this time they were saying the baby is small. And then, okay, now the baby sounds large. And they were like, okay, we need to admit you as soon as possible. I'm like, can I just have a normal labor, like everyone else? Yeah. I know it's it's COVID time as well. So they're like, okay, you just get your COVID test done. When your results are out, you check yourself in at the labor ward. So I got the COVID test done, I think, on a Monday. The results came in that same day. I was still like, no, let me just wait a few days. But by then I was also having a lot of pelvic pain that now I was thinking, is this labor? Is it? And it was not. So, okay, by Thursday I was like, let me just go. I was 40 plus weeks. So this is not happening. Let me just put away all those thoughts of how I ideally would like things to go and just check myself in. So again, I packed my bags on a Thursday, left in the afternoon, just like the other time, with that feeling like, no, I don't want to be admitted. Bye. Like, I'm driving off this compound thinking, the last time I'm a mother of one, like, this is it now. Like, when I come back, life will be different. So went, got admitted, got the pill again at now. I think they took quite some time because I got it at 8 p.m. Same thing, waited the whole night. The next day, still nothing much. They popped in the second one in the morning, and I was just thinking, I can't do this again. I'm seeing this is just going in the same direction the other one went. But then some cramps started coming in, maybe at around 10 a.m. the next day. This is now Friday. And they intensified. So my husband had gone home for the night. So by the time he came back, it was now like the labor had kicked in, according to how I was feeling. So that time I'm thinking, okay, now this is it. I'm trying now to do all I know, to do the breathing, bouncing on the ball, all that, walking. But now there was a long period, a few hours between now 10 and I think 2 p.m. when they came to check me. And by that time I was in serious pain, thinking, okay, by now I might be like maybe 7. They came and checked me and I was at 3 centimeters and I was like, no. But the way I just broke down and I started wailing like a baby. And I was like, I am not doing this again. And I started praying and I was like, God, I can't do this again. I've already been in serious pain for a couple of hours thinking I'm progressing. Kumbe I have not. 3 centimeters in mchezo. So I stayed there. I stopped talking. Before that, we were talking. We were playing music. I just stopped talking for like 2 hours. I was just, and now they brought the Syntocin on again. I saw them bringing the drip, and I was like, no. And I knew. I had prior experience. So they brought the drip, the Syntocin on, and it just, the same thing happened. Started throwing up, everything. So by then I was just like going through that labor like silently and in pain, but just sitting there like I was just crushed that this could be like I could be waiting for another, I don't know how long, in this much pain. So I continued. Then at 5, I don't know what I felt. Maybe it was the urge to push. Yeah, I think it was the urge to push. I just told my husband, please go and call the nurse. And mind you, the 3 centimeters was at 3. Yeah. Please go and call the nurse, it's time. He's like, I should just go and call the nurse. Then the nurse came, and of course he's just coming to check. She has nothing. She came and peeped. Okay, then she came, brought her gloves, checked. Yeah, it's time. Yes, it was a miracle. 10 centimeters in 2 hours. They were not ready. Yeah. The delivery room was not ready, and I was like, I am having this baby here right now. She's like, no, you can't have the baby here in the labor room. And like, just try to walk. When the contraction goes away, just try to walk to the delivery room. So they walked me slowly. Nothing was ready. Someone is opening a box of gloves very slowly. Everything seems so slow at that point. I'm like, you guys, the baby is coming now. And she was very calm. She's like, okay, lie on the bed. It's like, I'm going to push. Okay, start pushing. So she told me, okay, start pushing. And she's the one who delivered my baby. She was just happened to be on call. Like, the doctor was nowhere in the vicinity. They were not expecting me to progress. Yeah. They were going to, like, my next check was at 6:30. So they were trying to now rush around. So yeah, the baby came in about the next half an hour. The baby was there. This other time I had a few complications. So the baby was brought in. We did the skin to skin. My husband cut the cord. Now by that time the doctor had already been called. She was on another floor far away. So she came and stitched me. But then I had a few, like I had teared in several places. I had a complication that I didn't know about at that time that was found out like later that night. So after I saw my baby, then I didn't see my baby again until, because now the nurse who came to see me an hour later she was like, oh, your uterus is not contracting, because they had removed me from the syntocinon, which causes contractions and which should now help you to contract back. So they were saying I should not have been removed from it. But now this other nurse, her shift had ended. I had been already wheeled to my bed, but I was not okay then. I was feeling quite sick. So different experience from my first baby, because after the first baby, I was not like, I was back. My energy came back. But this time I was sick. I was quite weak. So they brought the syntocinon again. So yet again, another night of labor pain, because it brings about, and throwing up, like it has the same effect, whether or not you're having a baby. It brings about the same kind of effect. So it was just a long night, a long, hard night. And that drip is so slow. Like that, it just looks like the drop is going slowly, but slowly. Like, oh my. But yeah, I went through the night, saw my baby in the morning. So by morning, I was starting to feel a bit better. But this second time, it took me quite some time to recover. Like from that time to the time I came home, I was discharged the next day. Like they were in a big hurry. Like, no, we'll discharge you even today. And I was thinking, can I just stay here for like 2 more days before I go home? So I was discharged that afternoon, came home with the baby. And I'm thinking, did we just have another baby? Like, it's just, everything was so like, oh, it's happened. Yeah. We are home. Hadi is here. We're showing her the baby. He came. We looked at how little his feet were, and we commented on how cute it all was. And yeah, we continued. And then now she was just observing. And now I'm with the baby all the time. So now I don't have a lot of time for her. So I think it was an interesting time for her. That the transition doesn't happen as soon as you think it may, or at least for us. Yeah. So our second baby, Jasiri, now came in, and now we were trying to observe whether Hadi has changed in any way. No, she just seemed to be going about her regular life. Mm-hmm. But of course, she would be concerned. After a while, now she started thinking, okay, this baby is being carried all the time. So now she also wants to be carried. Now she also wants to be babied. So, but she was also very interested in, okay, what is he doing now? And now we were trying to explain to her, this is the same baby that was in mommy's tummy. Yeah. And now the baby is here. He's called Jasiri. It's your brother. So there was a lot of explaining. Yeah, but it's a long period of different transitions. Today, they're okay. For a few weeks, they want to be babied, and you just indulge them. The dad, of course, is the one doing all the carrying and playing and all that. But yeah, it's been interesting. Now it's a part of our life. In fact, when we go somewhere, she asks, "Where is the baby for here?" She asks that because now she expects that everyone has a small baby at their home, a small brother like her. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now Jasiri is part of her life. She is very attached to him. Now he's eating, and she usually says, I want him next to me. So we have to push his feeding chair next to hers. Yeah. When she's eating, she wants to feed him. When he came, she wanted to bathe him. So it's an interesting transition that happens. But also, one thing that happened this time is that your older baby suddenly now looks like a giant in your eyes. And I've asked several moms this, this is a common experience that you're like, this is such a big baby. Like, this is not a baby anymore. In fact, this is the baby. Like, they just literally grow up overnight, and they're like, the day before when I was at home with her, she was still my baby. Like, I was literally carrying her when I was 9 months pregnant, because she would still sit on my lap. I would still carry her. But after that, it would feel so strange carrying her, because now I had this other baby. So there's also like a shift that goes on in the mom's mind, because my husband was not experiencing this. I found a whole article explaining all this. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly how I feel. There's just something, there's a shift that happens. And I think it's the mom who is experiencing it more than the dad. I think it takes, there's an imbalance. Like, I don't see that, the baby comes in and then now you're a family of 4 and you're good. It takes time. Like, now you have a new person in the family who you're getting to know. Like, this is a new person and a new setup for all of you. You were a family of 3 before, and now you're a family of 4. And this person has never been in your life before. So we are all getting to know each other. And we're also getting to know each other again as a family of 4. I don't know if I'm yeah, you're getting to know your older child in a new way now as an your husband as a dad of 2, yourself as a mom of 2. So there's a lot of, I think, transitions that are happening at the same time. Some that you may never even like think about, like some are very, very nuanced, but there's a lot of things happening, even for the nanny. Because now, if it's the same nanny, she was used to handling, only one kid. Now there's another kid. The mom has more needs. There's a lot happening. Yeah. Our biggest challenge back then was that, of course, now we have a newborn, and this one was not sleeping from day one. At least Hadi gave us 2 weeks before the colic kicked in. This one we were like, okay, we tried to look at the definition of colic. They said it kicks in 2 or 3 weeks. This one was crying from day one. And we were not sleeping. Like we were not sleeping. And he would cry endlessly at night. So it was a bit stressful. But I think we bounced back faster, maybe, because we're like, okay, we've been through this before. It's okay. So this is my new life now. I come with my cup of coffee or no coffee, cup of cocoa, or cup of Ovaltine. And I'll just set up my phone. Okay, I'll just be watching videos, learning things, entertaining myself. So once in a while you're okay with it, you've made peace with it. And then maybe 3 or 4 a.m. kicks in and you're like, okay, I'm done. So the first hours of the night, it's not so bad. But as the night progresses and you're not sleeping, and the sun would rise, would literally like, our curtains are orange and you can really see when you're like, oh, it's morning. And we are all here. We've not slept.
And would Hadi be disrupted as well? Or
No, she would sleep through it. But then again, she also started her own waking up at night after a while. So we don't know if it was the new baby thing. We were also trying to train her to drop the nighttime diaper. Not a good time. So we had a lot of transition going. Because we're like, okay, we're already waking up at night. So we can as well start this new. So now she's also started waking up at night a lot. So now when we're just coming out of this crazy newborn, no sleeping time, now she's the one keeping us up. So it was we had like a crazy period there of just not sleeping. For me, I remember with both Hadi and this second one, when it gets to 6 p.m., I would start feeling a bit stressed, like knowing that, okay, the night is here. The crying, the staying up. But this second time, I think I would know, like, okay, this is a better time will come. Like, I had that hope. I've done this before. I can do this again. And again, people would tell you, oh, we're so sorry. We've had, my bro would call, we've had you guys are not sleeping. Like, yeah, we have a newborn. I think that was the biggest challenge then. Now, I think things have pretty much stabilized. We kind of have a routine going on. Back then, even thinking about a routine, like everything was all over the place. Since COVID kicked in, the routine went out the window. Hadi still here at 9 p.m. and still walking around. We have not finished eating. But now I feel like things have kind of stabilized. The kids are in bed by 8. I hope it sticks and continues. Before, I could not even imagine myself like at 7 or 7:38. I'm in the sitting room with my laptop or doing something at 8. No. Yeah, so now things have stabilized. Maybe our biggest challenge right now is that it gets quite busy for our nanny. For like our household is busy because there's a baby to be taken care of. There's a routine going on throughout the day. There's feeding, putting to sleep, feeding, like it's a continuous one. And yet you still have another child to take care of. We still have the cooking, the cleaning. We both have jobs. That's the challenge right now. Like trying to balance all that out, making sure that our nanny is okay and we can also support her, but we also have our work that we're taking care of. I think maybe that's the imbalance that we'd say is there right now. In fact, I used to think, ati more kids. Because after I had Jasiri, I was like, I don't even want to have a conversation with anyone about more kids. And it's interesting. Sometimes I try with the idea like, no, we could add one more. Then I'm like, no, I'm not doing this again. Like this whole journey is long, but then I'm like, And then I sometimes think about people who have 3 or more kids, and I'm like, how do people do it? Like, it feels like such a long journey. I always used to pray for twins so that I could finish quickly, but I know twins are a whole other ball game as well. Yeah. So I stopped making that prayer. I was like, no, one at a time. I'm good. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe we could think about one more. But right now, the thought of being pregnant again, let me just not lie. It's not something like it's not a thought I'm entertaining in the near future. Yeah. But maybe at some point I'll think about it. Sometimes I'm thinking, are we really done? People say actually that the second baby is the hardest one to adjust to. Yeah, I've heard that from so many people. But actually the third, the fourth, the fifth, oh my. Actually, they just pretty much raise themselves. I don't think that's true. Myself, having gone through this journey, I'm passionate about helping young moms. Like, I'm the first person who will call you when I hear you're pregnant or you're about to have your baby. I'll ask you if you've done your shopping. I'm in a bunch of moms groups. I've become a pseudo lactation consultant now because of the experience I've had, I guess, and just what I know. So I think people really need a lot of support at that time. So for me, some of these groups have been my biggest source of support. I'm in breastfeeding support group. Even now, as a second-time mom, I've still learned a few things there. I'm in a winning support group. I love the support groups. Yes, I'm in at least 3 moms groups right now that have been a huge support since way back then. And you'd come and ask anything there related to motherhood, related to just anything. And someone would answer you, or someone would just come and say something like, oh, okay, it's not just me, or okay, this is the answer. I advocate a lot for that kind of support. It takes a village. Nowadays, it's a digital village. Yeah, get all the support you need. Get a nanny, get 2 nannies, 3 nannies, whatever you need. Just get all the support you need. Self-care, that's a huge one. I think, as I told you, when I had my first baby and I was like, this is what I'll do for the rest of my life. Yeah. Even this time I felt the same way. Like, I don't know, your life just stops for a bit. I think it's an evolutionary thing, like, just to make you focus at that time. Then after a while, you're like, okay, maybe I can do it. I can actually go outside. So I get outside, go meet a friend for coffee, take help when it's, as in, I really love the movement that's there. There's a lot of stuff I see online nowadays encouraging moms that, don't be super mom. Yeah. There's nothing cool about being, is it called I've never known how to pronounce that word, MATYR. Matter. Yes, like it's not like, there's something that has been put on us as women that, you sacrifice your entire life. But no, that's not how it should be. Yes, the kids are important. Yes, focus on them, but don't lose focus on other things, on yourself and other things as well. Otherwise, it becomes one of those things later that you're like, okay, now the kids are gone or they are grown up and don't need my help anymore. And then you find out that, I have no life. I don't know myself anymore. So for me, I don't want to find myself there. So I'm trying to be more intentional now about that. Like, it doesn't make you less of a mom to accept help or to let someone else do it. Like, I can tell you for some days there when our nanny started handling the second born, there are days when I literally had to ask every day, did he poop today? Did he? Because I was not the one changing that. I was back at work then. I would wake up, breastfeed and hand the baby over. Go get ready, get to work. I'll come back to breastfeed. So I would not be the one handling the baby every day. And at some point I started feeling guilty, like, I'm being like a neglectful mom. I was like, no, I'm not. Like I need to work. I need to do these other things. My baby is taken care of. It doesn't have to be me 24/7. I can accept help and it's okay.
That was such an amazing recording session. She is the first mom that I've recorded with live, with the pandemic and everything, plus also just the logistics around finding time together with people and recording stories. It was really nice to just have her pop down and we could have this session together. And one thing I'd say is that after Jasiri was born, her second born, we would meet each other outside. And as you can hear from her story, this guys barely slept. Like, for the longest time, they really were not sleeping. And I could hear the baby wailing, so. But the crazy thing that I used to comment a lot of the time is that they did not look tired at all. Like, Edna always had a smile on her face. Edwin was just cheaper and cool. Ahadi would just play around, like they looked pretty alright, right? So much so that I'd be like, what was I doing wrong? Because I feel like, oh, but I feel like I looked like such a mess. But during those early months for myself, but she definitely carried that with a lot of grace. One big takeaway that I got from her story was the fact that it can be very easy to overlook the effect of a second child or a third one or even the fourth child coming and joining the family, especially that part when she said they had to relearn each other again as, you know, a sibling, as a father of two, as a mother of two. That was quite interesting. I thought it was so profound and definitely something to keep in mind as I personally think about like expanding my own family. So that's really something that, you know what, I would never have thought about it until the moment she said it, and it made a lot of sense. Another thing that really stood out was her use about like that digital community we have as moms. You know, apps like Facebook and WhatsApp were very irrelevant to me. At least they became quite irrelevant to me, but found purpose again once I became a mom, because I started joining these groups, and it doesn't even matter if I was contributing or not, at least at the very beginning. But for me, what it was is just that there's some solidarity, there's some sense of oneness that comes when you're in a group with other people who are going through the same journey as you are, and you kind of learn from even the questions posted there and the answers coming through. Like, you know what, I was actually thinking about that, and it's really great that someone has asked, right? And sometimes I remember the biggest step for me was actually contributing, because I'm not one of those people, to be quite honest. I'm one of those guys who lack the corner, not really engaging or doing anything. So but when I found myself doing that, I was just like, you know what, because I do believe in the power of this digital community that exists. And it doesn't mean to say that everything that happens online in these digital communities is great or supportive. No, because, you know, still we are human and we have our faults. So it's never really perfect. But there's some essence of learning that can appear there. Even when it's not baby related, someone is out there to help you out. Okay, so that's it for this episode. I will end this recording here. Thank you so much for listening to this. Catch you in the next episode. Bye.